Welcome to Love, Life, Cancer. I'm Joe.
And I'm Shannon.
This is our story of falling in love, starting our life together,
And navigating cancer.
It's going to be a wild ride.
So pop on your seatbelts and welcome to our sofa.
So welcome back to episode 2 of Love, Life, Cancer. So today we're going to be speaking about Shannon's symptoms, the fight we had with the NHS to get someone to listen, and also our diagnosis. We just want to say a massive shout out to everyone that tuned in for episode 1. We really appreciated all the comments and support that we got. We're really keen to hear from you guys. So if you do have any questions or you want to share your story with us, by all means, just drop a comment on the video today or DM us on socials and we'll be happy to have a chat with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I think we should first start off with the time before I met Joe. I know we're going backwards a little bit, but I remember having lots of symptoms of being tired and sleeping so much that it just wasn't normal. I remember going to the GP and they, mentioned that I had joint pain. That was the one thing they said to me. Oh, maybe, it's something to do with the bones. So they sent me to rheumatology, but the waiting list on the NHS was
significant.
It was huge.
9-12 months. Wasn't
it? So I decided to cheat the system and empty my pockets by going private. So I saw the same consultant privately and paid to see him for a short consultation. And then he put me on his NHS clinic. Make it make sense. At that time, they were looking at autoimmune disease, maybe lupus, and they put me on a medication for 6 months that should have kicked in by month 6, which would have been the August. And then, obviously, when I met you, I explained if that's going on straight off the bat. I said about the potential lupus and autoimmune diseases, and because Joe's wonderful, he just took it on the chin. After that, I remember it was when we got together, I'd sleep a lot to the point where you wasn't living with me.
No.
And you wouldn't hear from me for hours. I remember that one time that you came back to football.
Yeah, so there was a few occasions actually. So, Shannon, I would text you all day, talk to you, whatever. It would get to sort of 4 or 5 o'clock when you were home from work, and then it would we'd be mid-conversation and it'd be radio silence for 3 or 4 hours. And, at the time I knew that you were dealing with, this autoimmune issue and everything else. So I kind of just had to accept it. But, there was a few occasions where I was concerned about you. I was worried about you.
I remember that one time that you literally came to my house, because it wasn't ours at the time.
No.
And I was asleep and you were just in my face after I woke up, and I was like, what are you doing here? And it's because you were so scared that I hadn't replied in like 6 hours that you thought something had happened.
Yeah. Well, the other thing as well was when we first got together and, in those early stages when I was, we were spending a lot of time together, I was coming here after work and whatever it may be. I think that time in question was a Friday night. So I was in Corby with the kids, or I was due to have the kids the following morning or whatever it may be. And at the time, you were regularly getting home from work and you were so exhausted that you'd say to me...
I had a tough job as well.
Yeah, you did. Very stressful job, and you worked about an hour away from home. And, you would literally ring me and say, I can't remember getting home. I'm just that exhausted and that fatigued that I can't actually remember getting home.
Blackout. I can't remember leaving work. I remember leaving work and then getting home. There was nothing in between.
Autopilot. And I remember you used to call me or video call me in the car, obviously on a hands-free cradle, of course. And you'd ring me and you'd say, I'm literally falling asleep at the wheel and I need to talk to you, otherwise I think I'm going to fall asleep. So, that night in question, I think you'd sort of messaged to say I'm leaving work. So I sort of in my head, I was sitting there thinking, well, I'll be getting a phone call in the next 10-15 minutes. And it was pure radio silence. So in my mind, I was sitting there thinking, has she had a crash? Has she fallen asleep on the motorway? Has something quite serious happened? And, I think I rang you 7, 8, 9, 10 times, no answer. And it was just like, something's not right here, and that's why I came over. And you were just asleep on the sofa, weren't you?
And that's not normal.
No.
I know people have jobs that are stressful. They come home, they probably have a little sleep. This wasn't sleep. This wasn't a nap. This was absolutely out cold to the world. radio silence, absolutely nothing. And there's nothing that could wake me up apart from somebody physically waking me up. And you could ring me a million times, my phone on loud, and I wouldn't hear it.
Yeah. I even remember there were some days where your dad would message me and go, "Have you heard from Shannon?" And I'd go, "No, not since this time."
Who? Oh, Shannon.
Her Royal Highness, yes.
HRH.
HRH, as you are abbreviated to between myself and your dad. But you know, and that was kind of when we were first seeing each other. So you know, you were constantly in and out of the doctors and sort of saying, you know, something's not right here, and really pushing, weren't you?
You were pushing, and I went there. I can't even tell you how many times. And the things that I got told to do were just ridiculous. I got told to lose some weight, which is always a classic. I got told that maybe I'm just a bit stressed out. You know, you should go on holiday and relax.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the one that said you need to go on holiday. That was the icing on the cake, wasn't it? It really was.
I walked out of there with absolutely no hope of somebody helping me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is true. You don't get help till something happens. And I hate that happens. You know, there should be something in place to pick up. I know obviously it just is pushed, but it shouldn't take that long to diagnose somebody or pick up any symptoms. And just because I was young doesn't mean you can push me aside and just say I'm a little bit stressed.
But that seemed to be, you know, you've hit the nail on the head there with regards to your age. You know, you were 27 at the time. You know, and saying that you'd only just turned 27, and it was a case of, well, you're young. You know, you're not going to have a serious illness. You know, you're just tired. You're just stressed. You're just, you know, you're not used to a hard day's work kind of thing. And
I am my work.
Yes, exactly. And you know, the thing is, back and forwards into the doctors, and this sort of happened right up until we went on holiday. So I mean, we're probably, you know, sort of talking 2.5 months into the relationship, and this had been ongoing for sort of pretty much since day one, hadn't it? So, you know, it was very frustrating.
Do you know what? Actually, I was very conscious that you maybe thought I was lazy, or you thought, well, I'm wasting my time. Somebody just sleeps all the time. So I was very conscious of the relationship that we had and how that affected it.
Yeah.
I had no idea how much worse it would get, but at that point, I was really conscious of that. Of like, why would you want to be with somebody who has to sleep this much, or, you know, so tired they can't go out and do things?
Yeah.
It was a new relationship.
Yeah. And, you know, also at that time, you are right. I mean, I at that time was sitting there thinking, well, you know, she's ignoring me, or she's not replying to me, or I'll get a 1-word text message and then nothing for another couple of hours. And, you know, I was sitting there in my head, I was thinking, well, what the hell's going on? Is she getting fed up? Is she doing something? Is she ghosting me? Is she doing something she doesn't want me knowing about, or whatever it may be? maybe not quite to that level, but you know what I mean? It was a case of, you know, has she got her friends round and she just doesn't want to tell me, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I mean, those obviously, but you know, at the time, this was a new relationship. And those concerns around a new relationship of, like you said, ghosting or whatever it may be, they were present for both of us. And you know, I think we've
been through my dating history, and we know that I've been traumatized over and over again. So I completely get that from your point of view from one day ago. So I get that.
Yeah. But the thing is as well, but you know, something you need to know about me and Shannon is we do take great pride in talking. You know, it's something, and to be honest, I think it's because of what we've been through over the last couple of years. Is, you know, we need to have those hard conversations.
We need to have those conversations, that communication. I think no relationship will work long term without communication.
And I mean, we would regularly sit and just talk for hours and talk through previous relationships and history and things that
I don't
happened
think
to
there's
us.
a thing about either of us we don't know.
No, definitely
and that's not genuine. People keep secrets. People keep things from me that I don't want to know. There's nothing. We play a game sometimes, and Joe will go, "Tell me something I don't know about you." And I can't do it because there's nothing that he doesn't know about me.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, so we're in and out of the doctors. We're trying to deal all of this. It's a new relationship. You're, you know,
we've
clearly
talked about holidays. To be fair.
Yeah.
So when she said go on holiday and relax, you know,
we were like, oh, cool. We've already got one booked. But you know,
so maybe it will work.
We, you know, we're dealing with all this kind of stuff, and we're dealing with the fact that it's a new relationship, and you're going through all these symptoms and trying to get answers and everything else, and being fobbed off. And then, you know, we went on holiday. And I remember when we were on holiday, we're in a beautiful setting, lovely hotel, beautiful food, people, pretty much waiting on us, all day, every day, getting us drinks, getting us food, doing all of that kind of stuff. So, the most relaxing time you could possibly experience. And you couldn't get through a day without going for at least a 3 or 4 hour nap, and we're in a location where we're relaxing. We're sitting on a sunbed, listening to music or reading a book or just dozing in the pool. And yet you still need those naps, just to be able to get through the day. And I remember the frustrations that I had around it because, again, relatively new relationship, we're still
3 minutes in holiday.
Yeah, we're still figuring things out. Yes, we had that little excitement of the engagement and everything else, which obviously, we both really, really are happy with. But, sitting there at the pool and you going, I need to go and have a lie down. Now, for me,
you're lying down here. What do you call
that for me was very difficult because I was sort of like, well, you're lying down here.
I wasn't comfortable, though.
And why do you need to go back to the room to have a nap? And then that's that dilemma for me because we're on holiday together as a couple, and I don't want. Yes, obviously you can do stuff separately, but I didn't want to be sat by the pool drinking, talking to other people, having fun. A, on my own, but B, I also felt guilty doing that because you were having to take that time to go back to the room to relax and rest.
I remember there was a few times that you actually got frustrated and you were like, come on, why do you need, I was also sorry. And, feelings are valid, we don't sit here and say you can't feel how you feel. You felt frustrated and I could see it and I felt guilty.
Yeah.
So on that holiday, we both felt guilt.
Yeah.
We both felt frustrations for completely different reasons.
Yeah. It was very difficult and it was challenging. And like you said, it did cause a bit of friction on the holiday. But
it's okay because you put room on it. So,
but in the same vein, we knew something was going on. We didn't know what was going on. Obviously, we didn't know the severity of what was going on. But I think, again, I certainly made, yes, I got frustrated, but I certainly made allowances knowing that there was something in the background that sooner or later we'd get to the bottom of, you'd get on the right medication and, I would get
I could be good.
I would get my Shannon, and the Shannon I fell in love with and the Shannon that is the life and soul of the party. And, I knew that I would get her at some point. And you have lost her, but obviously we can get into that in future episodes. But, so we got back from holiday and, again, things just weren't right. You were tired, you were fatigued, you were sleeping, it got to the point where we were back at the doctor's pleading blood tests, x-rays.
And it wasn't until the blood test came back and my CBR, which is your protein level, which indicates infection or inflammation.
Inflammation or infection was raised, wasn't it?
Raised.
Wow.
It should be below 10 and I was at 390. And at that point, I was referred to SDEC, which is same day.
Well, no, there was no. There was something that happened before that. So you had the blood test. You had the blood test done first.
Yeah.
And then you had the X-rays done.
Oh,
and the doctor, because they could see the shadowing on your chest. Again, chemo brain. Shannon sometimes forgets a lot. So they
remember that. I had my X-ray, didn't I?
Yeah, so they done the bloods and an X-ray. It was literally just as we got back from holiday. And they could see the shadow on your chest, which obviously now we know that it was cancer. But obviously the GP at the time looked at the X-ray and basically went, it's pneumonia.
Here's some antibiotics.
Yes, here's some antibiotics. Give it a week or two, and you'll be fine. We obviously went back to the GP and fought a bit harder, and they then referred you. Well, at first they said they wanted to send you to A&E, didn't they?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you were like, no, I'm not going down to A&E.
I didn't have the capacity to go down to A&E. I was falling asleep, sitting up. I was falling asleep constantly. At this point, I'd limited my hours at work.
You had. Well, you say limited. There was days you were going to work and you were home by 10 o'clock because your boss was literally saying to you, you need to go home. You're not in a fit state to be here right now. Cheers, Lewis. And that was kind of the stage we were at. And obviously this cough hadn't gone away. You were having this dry cough. And we went back to the GP, and then, yeah, they referred you to A&E. You said, absolutely not. I'm not going and sitting down in A&E. I haven't got the capacity. So they actually rang through and referred you to SDEC. Now,
which is same day emergency care.
Yeah. So obviously same day emergency care. So it's essentially a level up from A&E. So a lot of the time, if you go to A&E and you need to be admitted or looked at further, they'll refer you then to SDEC before you're then admitted to hospital.
So cheat the system yet again.
Yeah, cheated the system yet again. So yeah, we went up to SDEC, and yeah, again, we're there for a couple of hours waiting to be seen, and you're asleep in the chair.
Yeah, I don't mean like just going. I mean full blown, head down on your lap, asleep, gone.
Yeah, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
And I got a lovely nickname, Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
Like genuinely, the nurses there would just call me Sleeping Beauty. And when it was my turn to go up and have a test or a chat, it would be Sleeping Beauty. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that I got a nickname that didn't let it.
And yeah, so obviously on that first day, Sleeping Beauty got called through. And you know, they were looking at your bloods and this and that, and they ran some tests, and then they came back and said, well, look, your CRP's raised, your iron's very low,
my hemoglobin was
your hemoglobin's low as well, so we want to do an infusion. But
an iron infusion.
An iron infusion, yeah. But the problem was that because your CRP was so high, they were concerned that if there was an infection somewhere that they were missing, by the iron infusion, it would then feed the infection. Yeah. So, you know, they sort of said to you, look, we want to run this past the consultant. Can you come back in tomorrow? Didn't they?
Of course.
Yeah.
I was going to do that.
Exactly. More time off work. And yeah, we went back in the next day, and then the consultant said that obviously, yeah, we're happy to go ahead and do it. So they did the iron infusion, and we worked out that's probably a week before you bought the dress.
Yeah.
And then obviously the day after.
So we thought by then, that's it, problem solved. It's my iron, my hemoglobin, my CRP was like, so that was it.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously the day after you went and bought the wedding dress, you had another issue, didn't you?
I coughed up blood. Only a tiny bit, but it was enough to worry me. Enough for me to call my doctor. Enough for me to actually go on by myself, because you were at work.
I was, yeah.
And they said A&E. And again, I said, look, SDEC have been dealing with everything that's been going on with me. I'd like to go to there. And they called up, said my name, and before she even explained what was going on, they said, yeah. So
headed back to SDEC, didn't we?
Yeah, SDEC.
And, you know, I just on that note, I want to give a massive shout out. There was one specific nurse at SDEC who really fought for you, didn't she?
You're watching, you know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know.
She didn't just fight for me. She literally was in a ring. She had boxing gloves on. She was not stopping until we found out what was going on.
So, yeah, that nurse in question, she was absolutely fighting your corner.
Yeah.
She literally said, we are going to figure this out.
And you won't leave until we do.
And you won't leave until we do. So
you'll come back every day until we do.
So they pretty much gave you like an open invitation, essentially, for the following week.
Which is rare. They don't really do that. It's only a referral and referral from a GP. But they gave me open door access. So if anything happened, I didn't feel right, it was sort of skip all of that and go straight to SDEC, which is very rare for them to do. But I think they knew something was going on. And again, like I said, that she wanted to get to the bottom of it. So that was really helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, you went in, you had that, you know, initial iron infusion. Yeah. You had another one a few days later.
I did, yeah.
Along with some other bits, as well as the iron. And again, nothing seemed to be working. No. And, you know, every time you went back in, your CRP levels were gaining. You know, they were going up. You know, I think
everything else was getting lower. Like my blood.
Your iron, your hemoglobin.
Yeah.
You know, and even with the infusion, they sort of said we should be seeing more of an improvement than we are. And I mean, I think in that sort of week or two window, your CRP level, I think when we first went in was in the low hundreds. And, you know, they were doing all this intervention and everything else, and it was climbing up towards 200. And, you know, that's why they were sort of like, we can't figure out what's going on. And I always remember the time where the doctor that was looking after you, he come to you, didn't he? And he asked if he could actually write a paper on your case because
I'm so rare. Yeah. And he had to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
That was the same doctor that when I had an ECG, I do remember this one.
Mm-hmm.
Had an ECG. So when you have all the, electrodes attached to your body and, you have to lay still and they have monitor your heart, this one stroking my head. So the machine's going wild and this bloke can't figure out what on earth is going on until he looks up and sees this one stroking my head. And he was like, "So you can't do that." And you're like, "I'm sorry."
Oh, look, the levels are normal again.
Oh, look, she's back to normal again now.
Yeah, no, he was really nice, and he followed your case for the sort of couple of months after, didn't he? Yeah, he was really invested in your case, and even got you to sign a consent so that he could write paper on you and all sorts.
But out there somewhere, maybe a medical paper on me.
Yeah. So we'd been back and forth to West Eck over the space of sort of like 2 weeks, and we weren't getting anywhere, were we? No, and they finally made the decision that they wanted to admit you, didn't they? Yeah. And the first day you were admitted, you were in a lot of pain. You were getting a lot of chest pain, weren't you? So one of the symptoms you were experiencing was a real strong chest pain. And, where your lymphoma was actually in the right-hand side of your chest, wasn't it? Which is where the pain was.
Was actually cancer.
Yeah. It was actually the cancer that was causing the chest pain. But
I want to point out, though, with that in my chest, couldn't feel a thing.
No,
you couldn't feel it. So it was very much buried. So people say look out for lumps and bumps, by all means look out for them, but sometimes remember you can't feel it.
Yeah. And that first day you were admitted, they were like, right, well, you're clearly in a lot of discomfort, so we're going to give you some painkillers, aren't they?
Yeah, some morphine and muscle relaxers. Is that Pink Hamster Day?
That is Pink Hamster Day. So for those that are interested, we are going to post a video of this on our Instagram.
Which is very raw for me to post it because actually it's quite a personal video, but it's so hilarious. I can't not go either.
Yeah.
So on that day, I was all wrapped up, all cozy, and I think I'd recently, before been admitted, seen the Barbie movie.
Yes, you had.
And I was high. Like the chest pain.
No, you weren't high. You were off your fucking tits.
Yeah, I was off my fucking tits. And first of all, I thought there was penguins in my blood. That was the issue.
Yeah.
I thought there were little penguins swimming in my blood, and that's the problem. So at the end of the video that we will post, you'll understand that reference. But then this day in question, I was so off my tits, as Joe says. Yeah, I was a pink hamster in my head. You couldn't tell me different. I was a pink hamster. My name was Barbie, and I used to go, "Hey Barbie," and then Joe would give me my tumbler drink like this. He'd give me this, and I'd sit there and I'd sip it like a hamster. Yeah. Huh?
So I probably very meanly, but I thought
I think it's the best thing ever did.
Yeah. Secretly filmed you and asked you how you are today.
Yeah.
And what are you? And
I'm a pink hamster called Barbie.
I'm a pink hamster called Barbie. And you went, and I sing, "Hey Barbie." And I drink my sippy cup as. So, moral of the story, don't do drugs. And yeah, that was day one. And
that's how we started.
Yeah, that's how we started. So first day in hospital, you'd been admitted the morning.
I also was really passionate about soup.
You were, yes, yeah. I remember the soup.
I remember having a soup in hospital, like a tomato soup, and I don't really like soup, and it was really tasty. And there's a video again from my beautiful husband who cares for me so much. He videoed me talking very passionately about soup, and I again was quite high, and I clocked him recording me.
Yeah, you did.
And I wasn't happy about it. This Shannon now is very happy he did that because it is hilarious to look back on. But 100% we will post the Hey Barbie video because it's just shit and gigs now.
Yeah, exactly. So then we had complication number one. Now,
what's this one?
We have kind of a bit of a running joke, but it's also not a joke that
I'm always at 1%.
You are always that 1%. So everything, as far as Shannon's concerned, throughout this journey, when a doctor says to you, you've got to have a procedure, and there's a 1% chance of this happening. There's 1 in a million people that have this side effect. She is that side effect. And, we will go into more detail about all the various different bits of this. But yeah, it is a bit of a running joke with us. And the first one was the CT.
CT, yeah. So they want to do CT, and when somebody's looking for something they don't want to tell you about, sometimes they put CT contrast. It's quite normal to have that. They tell you that when you have CT contrast, you might feel like you wean yourself, and that is true. You do feel that way. So I thought that was absolutely normal. They told me that's what happened, and then I started coughing and I couldn't breathe. And because of the chest pain that I was having and the cough that I was having, I thought that was just why. And then I actually had to stop the machine. And that's the first time ever, I had to press the button and say, no, stop. They brought me out, and he was really just really blasé. And he was like, what's the matter with you? I was like, I can't breathe in there. I can't stop coughing. He was like, okay. And then I threw it up in the bowl. And he just sort of looked at me and went, okay, go back to SDEC. Not SDEC, go back to your ward. No porter, no nothing. And I had to stumble back, and they were furious.
Yeah, the ward were absolutely raging.
So basically, what we didn't know at that point was that was an allergic reaction. But we didn't find out till later how serious that was when I had another one.
Yeah. And, we get it now, don't we, that you'll go for a CT, and we make sure that we say to them when it's booked, it needs to be without contrast. And even when we get there, they still go, you having a CT with contrast today? No, we can't have contrast.
I don't want your fucking contrast. I don't want to die.
Yeah. And, fast forward a little bit to that second incident, like you said, this was probably about a week into you staying at home.
No. The second one was chemo. But we didn't find a veno being there.
Yes, you are right, yeah.
The second one was chemo, and they thought I had some sort of blockage in my PICC line.
Yes, that was
right.
So
they sent me for a CT, popped in that little old contrast, and I was in there on my own. And again, the same thing was happening, but worse.
You went into anaphylaxis,
Well, I came back out and I couldn't breathe at all. But by this point, my symptoms from the cancer had come down because obviously I had the chemo. So I couldn't understand why it was happening again. And then I started going on renal blotchy. They brought Vina in. Lovely. And she's my favourite person. I love her so much. She came in and she looked at me and she said, what have you done to her? And I said, nothing. We're giving her contrast. And she was like, okay. So they gave me a minute and it was getting worse. I still couldn't breathe. And I started getting hyped and I was all rushy. And then you were sat outside and you were like, this is taking longer than it normally does.
So for me, you'd had various scans and, whatever else, and I'm sat there, and usually you're in there 5, 10 minutes, 15 tops. And I mean, I've been sat
CT scans quick.
Yeah. I've been sat outside this room for probably a good 20, 25 minutes. And I was kind of getting to the point where I was tempted to.
You were sat with Vina. They brought Vina in first. You were a bit like,
yeah, what's going on? So Vina went in, and then still 4, 5, 6 minutes later, the bloke sort of puts his head out the door and says, I think you should come in.
You should come in.
And I come in and you were red all over, blotchy, everything.
I started anaphylaxis.
Yeah.
And luckily, I didn't go into full anaphylaxis because, I'd only had it for a second time, but they told me there and then if I had CT contrast one more time, I would have been resus.
Yeah.
There was a very limited chance that I'd come back from anaphylaxis.
Yeah.
And it would happen very quickly. So everywhere we go, even to this day, we still say no CT contrast. They still offer it to me, even though it's on my records to say no CT contrast.
Yeah. Yeah. So those first couple of days in hospital were fun. You were off your tits, and I was making funny little videos. But for me, it was a very hard time because I was coming into the hospital throughout the day. We were limited to visiting hours only, so I was only getting to come in for sort of like a couple of hours in the afternoon, a couple of hours in the evening, and because I needed to be available during the day, my work now, Craig was absolutely fantastic. My boss, we love Craig. But Craig was very good with me, and he sort of said, look, work from home, or, if you need to take some time, that's fine. Book your appointments around.
He calls himself our protector.
He does, yeah.
He's had our back since day one.
He has, yeah.
He's had your back even further back.
Yes, yeah. I've worked for Craig now for coming up 8 years, and I see him more as a friend than my, employer. We have that relationship. We see each other outside of work. He absolutely adores you. He adores the children. And yeah, Craig has been one of our biggest supporters since day one, hasn't he? But, for me, it was very difficult because I was, having to balance work, having to balance you being in the hospital, worrying about you, not eating, and you know, when
Oh yeah, I was eating nothing.
yeah, when I was eating, then you know, I was really struggling because I didn't want to cook and I didn't have the energy, and I started cleaning. That was another weird thing,
Yeah,
you know,
gutted the house.
absolutely gutted the house. And you know, in my mind, I was sitting there thinking, well, I need to keep myself busy. And
When she gets home, it's gonna be perfect
yeah,
for her.
when she gets home, it'll be perfect. The house will be spotless. You know, I literally top to bottom gutted the house.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a hard couple of days for me. And you were having your own fun in hospital, weren't you?
Yeah, so there was a lady opposite me who was bedridden, and I was having a little walk around to keep myself mobile, and she said, "Well, what are you here for?" Just thought it was a weird question to ask someone in hospital. I wouldn't dream of asking somebody that, would you?
No, no, definitely not.
And she said to me, "Oh, so what is it then?" And I said, "They think it might be sepsis because at this point they were doing the blood test every 3 hours to check that because again, CRP being high blood, you know, they made that little link there." Um, and she was like, "Oh, okay, all right." And then about an hour later, when the nurses did their rounds, she like pulled one to one side quite like intensely and was like, "You've put me in here with somebody who has sepsis. I could get infected. You
Yeah,
can't, you can't
you
catch
can't catch
sepsis, babe.
sepsis, love, but
You're
yeah,
all right."
yeah,
So that was fun.
yeah.
I also had people shouting at me because I had my curtain closed. Sorry for not wanting to have my
We're talking patients here.
yeah,
Patients
patients
in the
shouting
ward
at me because I had the
shouting at you.
window seat. It's not an aeroplane. I didn't book it. I was given it. Right? She was shouting at me because I had the curtain closed, like near the window, and it wasn't fair. She was not letting in the light, and I was like, "Not today, bitch. Not today." And I went off.
Yeah, yeah,
Off.
absolutely off. So yeah, you spent probably what, a week, 8, 9 days, something like that in hospital, and they
Yeah.
were still investigating and things like that. And then there was a day where I had to go to work. I had to go up to York. Now from here, that's about a 3.5 hour drive for us.
Mhm.
So you know, I was quite some way away, and you know they'd ruled out sepsis,
Yeah.
and you know they were talking about other things. And then yeah, you had morning rounds,
Yeah.
and you know very blasé, weren't they,
Yeah.
about the whole
So
thing?
I had behind my little curtain, I had this consultant and a group of obviously student doctors, nurses, I don't know, that they were all there staring at me. And he was giving me lots of medical jargon, like numbers and things like that. But what I did pick up was he said, "We're looking at it's either something called sarcoidosis, which is an immune disease, or lymphoma." And I just went, "Okay." And he was like, "So we'll get back to you. Obviously, we'll do some more tests and stuff, you know, and we'll leave it there." Okay. So I had no idea. I was like, "Yep, cool." And I sat there in my little bed, my curtain closed, and I couldn't spell sarcoidosis. I mean, if you try to stuff it off the top of your head, I think you struggle. But I struggled to do it. I didn't know what it was, so I just left that there. But what I could spell was lymphoma. So I popped that into Google, and a few scrolls down, I just saw blood cancer, and I thought, no, it means something else. He might not, you know, have meant that because surely someone wouldn't tell you that whilst you're on your own in a ward and then just leave you.
But they did.
Well, they did, and
did.
that's how it happened. And then I remember with Joe being up north, I didn't want to call him because I didn't want him driving home in a state. So I didn't tell him, and I don't regret that.
No.
I don't regret that. What I did do is call my dad, and he turned up early, visiting hours. He turned up about 10 o'clock in the morning.
They wouldn't even let him on the ward.
They wouldn't let
You
me on
had
the
to go out.
ward, and I was not okay, considering they gave me this news. And so I went out with him and went downstairs to the rainbow benches that every time I drive by, I have a little traumatic flashback to sitting there sobbing my eyes out because not about the cancer as such, but the fact that I found the man of my absolute dreams. I found the man that I'm going to marry. I found the man that I'm going to marry, and this could all just turn to shit. Why would he want to be with somebody who has cancer? Like, no, he would, you know. And I remember being in almost in a panic attack, with my head down, and my dad just going, "I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do." But he was there, and that's all that mattered. He stayed for a little while. I went back up to the ward and had a sleep because I was exhausted from crying so much. And then I waited until you were on the way back from York, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that morning quite vividly, and I I felt something was wrong because
Intuition.
you were being very much, you were on text, and you were sort of going, what time are you due back?
Yeah.
Have you left your meeting yet? As your meeting started, and you were asking all these very
Being quite needy.
essentially being needy. And I don't
needed you.
yeah, I don't know what it was, but there was just something telling me that there's a reason that this is happening, and like you said, that intuition, that gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. And I always remember I got home and I dropped you a message and said, I've just walked in the door. I'll be in this afternoon to see you. And you called me and you told me.
I couldn't wait till he got here.
You told me that
you
could have cancer.
Well, I told you it could be sarcoidosis or it could be lymphoma, which is cancer.
Yeah. And naturally I said, I'll be down in 10. So I literally hung up the phone, I got my shoes on, and I drove to the hospital. Now, on that day, I planned to come home. I had a Teams call with my boss, Craig. And then I was planning on coming in to see you at Visit in the afternoon. So I remember, and I can literally see it in my foreign eye. I was driving out of the village that we live in, and there's a very big roundabout. And I remember as I pulled onto this roundabout, Craig had answered the phone, and I said to him, I can't come on the call. I'm heading to the hospital. And he said, okay, what's going on? And I had probably 7 or 8 seconds where I physically couldn't get the words out. And
makes me sad.
I remember when I got them out, I said to him, Shannon could have cancer. And in that instant, I started sobbing and wailing, and I was wailing down the phone to Craig. And even Craig was like, bro, you need to pull over. You're clearly not in a state to be driving. And I was like, no, I need to get to the hospital. And I remember Craig said, right, let me know when you can. Hung up the phone. And I remember from there, it was probably still a good 8-9 minutes to the hospital, and I sobbed, absolutely sobbed my heart out. And I was at the point where I was having to wipe tears away from my eyes so that I could actually see the road, because they were welling up that much. And I remember I got to the hospital, I dumped the car, I ran in, and we just had the biggest hug. And we sat down at the bed, and I said, right, what's going on? What's going on? What have they said? And you went through it. You explained, obviously, it could be sarcoidosis. It could be lymphoma. Now,
so just quickly, sarcoidosis is a autoimmune disease that mimics lymphoma. So they have pretty much the exact same symptoms, bar a few, which is why they thought it could be either or either.
Yeah. So obviously got to the hospital. We went through, what had been said. I spoke to the nurse and staff and sort of said, what information can you give? Where are we at with things? What's the plan of action here? And we went a bit back and forth, and then, over the space of the next couple of days, they essentially said, we want to do an EBUS. So an EBUS is where they essentially stick a camera down your throat in order to get a biopsy.
It wasn't just a camera. It was, you're laying there and they dose you up, drug you up, so you don't really know what's going on. That didn't work for me because, again, the 1%, it didn't work. So I was very much awake, very much feeling everything, but I couldn't speak. Because not only did I have a camera down my throat, I had the biopsy tool down my throat. I had wires in my mouth to keep suction out. I had, my head was sort of like in this horrible seat with this clamp open in my mouth, and all I could use is my eyes to communicate. And people that don't know you, you're sort of looking at them and say, stop, stop, stop. You can't speak at all. There's not even a murmur that you can make because it is literally all down your throat. And I remember I could feel it all, and it was so vivid. And I remember they were doing it, and I was saying stop, and they didn't stop. And I then raised my hand to pull out all the stuff, and they pulled my hands down, held my arms down. Now, could you imagine being in a state where you can't speak, your arms are being held down, and you're being basically pinned down to a chair?
All whilst panicking and not being able to breathe.
It was the most traumatic experience I think I've ever had. Right, forget cancer treatment. That EBIS was the most traumatic medical experience that I've ever had. And then again, I broke free from their grip holding me down, and I went to pull it, and I remember the doctor saying, I think that's her telling us to stop. And I was like, you think so? Like, I've been trying to scream for a long time now. I'm pulling stuff out, and they pulled it all out. I went back to the recovery zone, and I was in a panic attack. I couldn't stop screaming and crying. And they said I had to wait there for 3 hours. 3 whole hours, and that wasn't happening. I called Joe. I said, you need to come and get me. And he said, no, 3 hours.
No, you called me. You called me in such a panic.
In a state, wasn't I?
And I think through a mixture of having the panic attack, through the drugs they'd given you, and everything else, you were not making sense. You weren't. And you were sobbing, and I think the only words I got out of you that were tangible was, come here, come now. Come now.
But they said 3 hours, and I said no.
So I actually rang the ward because they'd given me the number as obviously a next of kin, and I rang the ward and went, what the hell is going on?
What's happened to her?
I have just had this frenzied, panicked, nonsense phone call from Shannon, and I don't understand a word that she was trying to say to me. What the hell is going on?
No one was there to calm me down. No one was there to reassure me.
They just left you.
Left me in the corner.
And I remember them saying, look, she's had a bit of a traumatic time with the procedure. You know, she's in recovery now. She's fine. You know, she doesn't need you. And then I think through a various of exchanges of texts and calls and whatever else, and obviously naturally I'd headed straight back to the hospital anyway, so I was already on site. So I was actually sat outside the ward that they had you on, and I remember getting a call from you saying, I've basically told them I'm leaving.
Yeah, they were saying that I can't leave, and you know, I had my cannula in still, and I had this in, and I said, you don't take it out, I'll take it out myself, because the amount of cannulas that I've had, I'm pretty sure I could do a good job of that. And again, I was just incoherent. I was just, all I wanted to do was leave because I was so traumatized, and they wouldn't let me leave. I can be quite forceful when I want to. I'm quite determined. That face for
just a little.
So I said to them, look, you need to get out of my way because I'm leaving. And that was it. I was gone. Yeah. I couldn't speak about what actually happened to me for a good couple of days, could I?
Yeah. Literally, I asked you, and you were like, I can't talk about it. And it took about a week for me to actually talk to you about what happened, because it was so traumatizing to me that I just couldn't. And even then, you were the first person that I told about it. And then everyone else asked me. I think it was a good couple of weeks before I could tell them, because it was so... People use the word trauma and traumatic quite, frequently, just, for anything. But when I tell you that the mention of that word, EBIS, makes me feel sick. We have now actually banned that word with our consultant.
Yeah.
So
the second someone mentions EBIS, it's absolutely not. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
We actually recommended it the other day, and I was like, no, not a chance. Yeah. Not a chance in hell.
Yeah. And yeah, that was that. So come and pick you up. And the whole point of the EBIS was they wanted to do a biopsy. And because of where the mass was, that was really the best choice to get to it. Now, luckily, they did actually manage to get a biopsy.
Yeah.
Even though you tried to fight against them, they managed to get the biopsy. Now, just for people's information, I suppose more than anything, when you go and have a scan or you have a biopsy or whatever it may be, our expectation definitely was, okay, we should have the results in a day or two. Absolutely not.
Gosh.
So with the biopsy they completed, so we had this done at Northampton General. Now, the biopsy samples were then sent to a lab in Leicester.
Yeah.
Now, yes, Leicester and Northampton are not a million miles away from each other, but
an hour.
There was still that process of, collecting the biopsy, preparing it, booking the transport, whatever it is internally that they had to do. So it was a couple of days before it was going to then get to Leicester. Now, once that biopsy had arrived at Leicester, they then needed however long to process it and test whatever they needed, analyze it and everything else. So, we were kind of expecting within a day or two we were going to be hearing, and this was a couple of weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
they had me back at the place where they suggested the EUS a few times, and each time we went into that office, I went into a meltdown because I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And all it was really was an update that, oh no, we haven't sent your biopsy this week, we're going to send it next week.
Yeah, we're going to send it on next week's run.
Why? Oh, we missed this week's run. Okay. And then it was, oh yeah, it's been done, but we'll wait for it to come back. Okay, cool. Wait for it to come back.
No, they said they'd sent it, and we then spoke to someone 2 or 3 days later. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't actually sent this week. So it was 2, 3, 4 weeks. And whilst all of this is going on, your symptoms are getting progressively worse.
I lost 4 stone, didn't I?
So, we are awaiting these results, and we are purely in this just limbo state where we are not sure what's going on.
I was at home by this point.
Yeah. So you'd given up work at this point. We were in a position where we were just every single night we were sat on the sofa talking for hours and hours. And
I said to you that if it is cancer,
yes. And obviously, I told you that you were an idiot. And
well, seriously, why would a man with cancer? Why would a man with 2 children who, it's been 6 months, it's not even that, and I'm being told that I could possibly have cancer. Why would you want to be around that? Why would you want to bring the children into that? Why would you even want to? And I gave you the out more than once.
Yeah, you did. And what do I tell you every single time?
In sickness and in health.
Exactly. And, whilst we're waiting for these results, we are spending every single evening sat on the sofa, talking things through, crying, sobbing, looking after each other. And we alternated. It seemed to be that one night that you were fine, and then I would be the one having the breakdown.
Yeah.
And then the following night, I'd be fine, and you'd be the one having the breakdown.
It was perfect, really, because the other one was there to support the other.
Exactly.
It worked out.
It worked out. Whilst all of this was going on, your symptoms were just getting progressively worse. You'd lost a lot of weight, hadn't you?
Lost 4 stone.
Yeah, 4 stone.
2 months.
Yeah, you were gaunt in the face. You looked unwell.
Green, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were literally green. And your hair was thinning, and all of this kind of stuff.
That's just the physical things that you can see.
Yeah, and that's not how you were feeling on the inside.
No.
You were
rotting on the inside.
You were pretty much sleeping all day, every day, weren't you?
So it made it hard to do things.
Yeah.
Like even get up and just have dinner together.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat at the time. Couldn't. The only thing that I could eat was Domino's pizza.
Domino's pizza.
So I'd only have like a slice at a time, or maybe 2 pushing it. And so what we'd do is we'd order a pizza on Monday. I'd go through that by Thursday.
Yeah.
Order them on Thursday. I'd go through that by Monday. So God knows what they've been mental.
Yeah, I remember one day looking, I was taking the rubbish out of the pizzas from the nights before and opening our recycling bin, and there must have been 10 Domino's pizza boxes in there. And I just remember thinking,
it's all I could eat.
Yeah. All you could stomach. Because, at that point, you were feeling so unwell and sick all the time. And, you were having the weight loss because you weren't eating.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Put it this way, if I laughed too hard, I'd throw up.
Yeah. You were throwing up regularly. Probably 2, 3 times a day you were being sick.
Yeah, and then sometimes in the middle of the night, I'd be cuddling in the toilet and just trying to be as quiet as possible because I knew that you needed sleep.
Yeah.
You got mad at me in the mornings about it. That morning, remember you found me on the bathroom floor?
Yeah.
I was just afraid of all night.
Yeah. And I was like, why the hell did you not wake me up?
You need to still be asleep.
You know, and obviously at that time, you know, I was trying to juggle absolutely everything, you know.
Yeah.
Luckily, I mean, at the time, when we first met, I just signed up for a flat for 12 months on a lease, on a contract. And when obviously you started getting ill around about, you know, 3-4 months in, seriously ill, you know, getting admitted to hospital and the tests and everything else. And obviously you had to stop working. And you had your house, your bills, your mortgage, your everything to pay for. And I was still paying for the flat. And, you know, at the end of the day, regardless of whether I was living there or not, I still had the rent, I still had the council tax, the gas, electric, the water, everything else that needed to be paid as part of that. And
I think I made it work until July.
Yeah, you did. And then it just so happened that I was looking at my contract for the flat, and it had a release clause in there, which was a 6-month break point. And essentially, if either the landlord or the tenant wanted to cease the contract, they could with 30 days notice. So obviously when Shannon started getting ill, I was pretty much living here at that point anyway.
At that point?
Yeah, you'd
moved in before that.
You'd set the bedroom up for the kids. Yeah. So, you know, we were regularly having the kids here on the weekends. The only time I would really have them at the flat was if you were that unwell that I was like, you just need some rest this weekend. I'll go.
It happened rarely, to be
fair. So luckily I was actually able to give up the flat, and it came at just the right time. It
coincided with me coming off work completely.
Yeah. So I was able to then take over the responsibility of all the bills. But, you know,
what a legend.
In addition to that, you know, I'm worrying about how we're paying the bills this month. I'm worrying about the fact that you're ill, you're not eating, you're losing weight, you're having all these symptoms. I'm having to try and balance work and, you know, trying to be as fair as I can to work, because, you know, they're employing me to do a job. And, you know, again, Craig was absolutely golden during that period. And, you know, there was times where, you know, it would be a case of, look, go and do what you need to do. Just keep your phone on. If I need you, I'll ring you. You know, it was very informal, and he really made all the difference. And to be fair, my employer at the time, you know, they were very good, and they did give me time off and paid time off and things like that. So they were very understanding. But, you know, what Craig was doing for me was another level. And
it was above and beyond, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was going above and beyond. And, you know, I at that time was trying to balance all these things. And then we were, you know, I would get home of an evening, or you would get up, like you said, you know, for that hour in the evening where we could actually sit together and have some dinner. And we were then having these deep, you know, thoughtful conversations and crying and emotions and and this was every single day. And
that's exhausting.
It was, it was an exhausting time. It was an exhausting time. And all while this is going on, we then still have this thing hanging over us of,
it's cancer, isn't it?
Yeah. What is this going to be?
I think by this point we know.
Yeah, we kind of come to terms with it. We spoke about it and everything else. But, you know, the symptoms you were having were just ridiculous. Like we said, you know, sickness, weight loss. I mean, the night sweats. Oh my God.
Oh my God, the night sweats. Like, people get warm at night. So imagine a summer's night when you're so hot and you're sweaty and you go, oh, it's feeling it on my pajamas. Maximize that by maybe 10. To the point where you are sweating so much that you're having drenching night sweats. Only at night though, not at the daytime. And you have to get up, you have to change your pajamas. Some nights you have to shower. Some nights change your sheets. I mean, we even bought microfiber towels and lay it on just so they could absorb some of the sweats that haven't got up so much throughout the night.
I remember on those microfiber towels, I mean, they were fantastic. You know, if you're going through something like this or you struggle, microfiber towels are next level.
They're the one.
Yeah, are the one. But I remember waking up one morning and this thing being so drenched, I was able to wring it out. You know, and
that's what we're talking.
We are talking serious.
I'm not talking like getting hot and sweaty and having this when I say drenching night sweats, that's what they mean.
Yeah. You literally, there was nights you woke up and your pajamas looked like someone had just shot you. Yeah, just shot you with a hose, you know, or poured a jug of water over you. You were literally drenched. and there was several times that we had to change the bed in the middle of the night because it was just that rung through. We had to get mattress protectors and all sorts because it was just
it was all the time. It was constant, and it was for months.
Yeah.
And it got to the stage where it just got too much, and I wasn't sleeping because I was getting up multiple times in the night to either change my towels, or because I had to change over the towels in the night,
or be sick,
or change your pajamas, have a shower, whatever it is. So I wasn't sleeping. On top of all of this, my nighttime sleep was broken. Now, I don't know about you, but broken sleep to me is worse than no sleep, because if you can get your mindset ready that you've had no sleep, when it's broken sleep, you don't know who you are, what planet you're on, and what you're doing in life. You don't know anything, do you?
No, exactly. And that was a really challenging time because it was also a time where we weren't really, I wouldn't say prepared, but we weren't really aware of what this could look like, and we were challenging each new day as it came. And then we still had these test results hanging over us. And just touching back on that, the test results finally got sent to Leicester. And even once those test results had been sent to Leicester and the results had been returned, there was still a waiting process because
they go to
the consultant. So they go to the consultant who has requested them, which in this case was hematology, because obviously blood cancer. And what then happens is when the test results are returned, the consultant will initially look at them. It then needs to go to what they call an MDT, which is a multiple discipline team. And what that essentially is it's a group of doctors and specialists who once a week they will get together on a set time and date to discuss ongoing cases.
The thing is, though, if you're on that case list to be looked at, if they spend too long looking at others and don't quite get to you, you have to wait for the next week. Or if your case isn't submitted in time to the MDT, you wait for the next week till they have one. So, it could be weeks before they even address you at the MDT because the volume of cases that they have. So that, again, another waiting game.
And, this is, again, it was then coming to us that, this is not a quick process. No. And again, if there is anyone out there that's listening that is going through this or might have something like this that's coming up in the near future, it is tough. It is really tough. It's a waiting game. Yeah, it's straining, and it is a waiting game, and it's frustrating, and it doesn't matter how much you chase and how much you harass the consultants and the ward and everything else. There is nothing that can speed this process up.
There's people out there. The hematology people were absolutely incredible.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Couldn't give me any information because there wasn't any.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we were, at this point, we were we hadn't been introduced to hematology just yet, but we were kind of aware that they were dealing with things and we had contact information and things like that. But again, until there's been an official diagnosis, they won't share information with you because obviously if they get it wrong, for one, and they tell us wrong information,
complaints and suing,
exactly,
sort of
and they need the full picture in order to tell you what's happening. And it was getting towards the end of September, and we chased and we were told it's going to be looked at the next MDT and this and that, and they'll be in touch. And then lo and behold, we got a letter through, didn't we?
Whoop, whoop.
So
it was the 25th September.
25th September.
Yeah. Never forget that day.
Yeah. And we got this letter through probably about a week before, hadn't we? And it was to say, appointment with a consultant at hematology, this time, this date.
Was in the morning.
And I think at that point we had...
When you get a letter from hematology, which is to do with blood cancer, you kind of get the idea that you have blood cancer.
And obviously...
you hang on to the hope that you do.
Yeah, of course. And obviously...
So I hope it kills you.
I'm a Spurs fan. I know that all too well. And obviously we'd kind of spoken, and this is like 2 months, 2.5 months even after you'd originally been told in that hospital bed, sat by yourself, this could be lymphoma. So this is 2.5 months in the making, and this has been, sleepless nights. This has been symptoms getting worse. This has been deep conversations. This has been crying. This has been acceptance. This has been anger. This has been every single emotion you can possibly think of that we've been through. And we had come to a point by then that we sort of, in a way, we were sort of like, it'll be what it'll be.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point stressing. There's no point worrying about it.
Joe has this saying that pisses me off to a level that you couldn't imagine. He says, we don't worry about something until we need to worry about something. Fuck that. I will worry when I want to worry.
Yeah. But
and if I want to worry that I might have blood cancer, I might want to worry about it.
I live by that saying.
Fucks me
Let's
off.
not worry about it till we need to.
Fucks me off.
Yeah. But, you know, so we'd kind of come to terms with it. And, you know, your symptoms have got progressively worse, and obviously you feeling sick and the night sweats and everything else that we've already spoken about. And we got to a point where we were kind of like, we know what this is, but until we hear those words, we don't know for certain.
And that appointment was on a Monday.
And that was on a Monday, yeah. So this was obviously the week before. So like the Tuesday, Wednesday, you'd really been suffering with the night sweats. And I mean, we'd actually been out and bought you a Dyson fan because we were like, you know, tower fan. Yeah, Dave the Dyson, as we call him. Tower fans, desk fans, you know, they just weren't cutting it. So we went out, we went to Curry's, and we spoke to
Dave.
It was actually Dave, wasn't it? Yeah, that's why it was Dave the Dyson. Yeah, that is why Dave the Dyson is called Dave, was because the Dyson sales rep that sold him it was called Dave. So we spoke to Dave, and we we sort of said to him, you know, this is what's going on and whatever else, and he advised us this this Dyson Air, whatever it is, you know, and we bought it, and I mean it was very expensive, and we couldn't afford it.
Nope.
You know, it was £450, I think, off the top of my head. And at this point, you'd not worked in 2 months. Yeah. I was obviously still, you know, paying the bills. I was still, you know, paying for the children and everything else, and all this stress.
It was a credit card job because it was needed. It was an essential.
And it was a credit card job. It was, we'll worry about it later. And, you know, that's
why I like it. When it's credit card, worry about it later. That's why I like.
Yeah, Shannon likes it when we worry about the credit card when we need to, don't we? So we bought this Dyson, and like I said, we couldn't afford it. You know, we were already starting to struggle, and this was before we'd even got into any sort of treatment and time off and everything else. And you know, we bought this Dyson because you were struggling, and you ended up ringing the GP, didn't you? The Friday before.
It was because these night sweats were getting to me, not just sleep, but emotionally. And I just wondered if there was anything out there in the medical universe that could help or relieve these night sweats, because they were getting unbearable. And they said, we'll give you a phone back, keep your phone on, you know, we'll get back to you today, so it's not over the weekend. So then we're sat in bed. And
well, no, I was working from home that day.
Yeah,
you were in bed.
I was in bed. Yeah.
I had the phone ring, so I
ran in, and it was this doctor, and she was one of the ones that actually said to me before, like, you're fine, you know. And I picked up the phone, confirmed my details, and she said, first of all, I want to apologise, say sorry for your diagnosis. And I said, what diagnosis? She said, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I went, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I didn't want her to know that she'd massively really fucked up and told me that I had cancer. The rest of that conversation was blurry because I think I didn't really care about the night sweats then, because she basically confirmed, you know, she'd looked at her medical records and seen something on there that obviously made her say that. And you know, at that point, we then realised it. I can't remember what the outcome was of the night sweats. I think she said basically you got permanent.
Yeah.
And then we spent that night especially
sobbing. And
that weekend was just a blur.
Yeah.
It was just a weekend of trying to process things and knowing that our appointment was coming up on Monday, that, you know, it confirmed our greatest fears that the appointment on Monday was probably to tell us that I had cancer. Yeah. So we spent that whole weekend in absolute floods of tears, in levels of stress, high and low. We, you know, again, we had them deep conversations. I think that weekend, again, I gave you the out.
You did.
And that was that weekend. And then the Monday rolls around.
Now, the Monday was quite funny because we turned up at that appointment.
Yeah.
Knowing the outcome.
Yeah.
We knew that we were over it. we'd had the weekend, And in a weird way, we both kind of look back on that doctor cocking up. And in a weird way, we kind of say it was
meant to be.
It was meant to be, because it actually gave us 3 days to process and cry and be upset and be angry. And then when we went to that appointment
Honestly,
on the Monday morning,
funny, wasn't it?
we were very clear-headed. And we'd had that weekend to talk things through and worry about things and cry and whatever else, as I said. So we then went into that appointment, not in a, oh my God, I've just been told I've got cancer.
No.
We went into that appointment in a,
I know.
What's the next step?
We went into that, it's called the quiet family room, before you go into the consultant. And you go in there with the Macmillan nurse. I had a specialist nurse. I was very lucky to have her. She is fabulous at her job.
She is absolutely
fantastic. Can't fault her. She takes her job very seriously. She's very passionate about it. She is 1 in a million. And again, if you're listening, you know exactly who you are. She sat us down on the sofa and she had a pamphlet, a book against her chest. And she said, okay, so your test results will come back that you do have cancer. And I went, yeah, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And she went, no. She turned this book around and it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, they might sound like it's exactly the same. What's your big deal? They're treated completely differently. They're 2 different cancers. So when she told me it was Hodgkin's lymphoma, I was like, oh. And she asked me why I thought it was non-Hodgkin's. I told her the story happened on Friday. Furious wasn't the word.
Yeah,
she was furious. She was raging. But it also gave us a minute to go, okay. I think a bit of a weird setting, because as a Macmillan nurse, she's telling this person that they've got cancer, you expect the tears, the crying, the shouting, the rage, and that's why they're in the quiet room before you go to the consultant, so you can have a minute to calm down as much as you can to go and be clear-headed to go in. But we were just very blasé about it. We'd had the whole weekend to process.
We were very much like, right, cool.
Okay, let's go.
What's next?
So we went into the consultant.
And I mean, just touching back on the Macmillan nurse, I think in hindsight, it was a very weird interaction for her, wasn't it? Because, like you said,
a very weird patient for her, to be fair.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you're just weird, full stop, anyway. But yeah, like you said, you doing that job, you're about to tell somebody something that is life changing. In many ways,
how amazing is that to tell somebody that, and she's so amazing and so kind at the same time. You're very lucky if you have somebody like that who is the person to tell you. It's an amazing thing that she does that job. She might go home feeling lots of guilt. She might go home with heavy shoulders, but she doesn't just leave it there. I just want to say that you don't just leave it there. That person will be in your life the next 6 months to a year, if not longer.
Yeah. And she really guided us through everything, and she was there. And you know what? From my point of view as well, she was Shannon's nurse, her son nurse. But the amount of times that she said to me, if you need me, call me. And she wasn't talking about
just me.
Shannon needing her. She was talking about me needing her.
There was a time, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I was in chemo and you weren't having a good time.
Yeah.
And
she rang me.
Speak to her.
She rang me.
You spoke to her when we were actually at chemo. You went to a different room.
Yeah.
It wasn't chemo. It was a bit before that, or an appointment. I was somewhere else, and Joe got to be brutally honest to her in a different room and get that advice that he needed.
Yeah. And you know what? This is, again, just something for anyone that's going through this. Your Macmillan nurse is not just there for the patient. They are there for the family. They're there for the partners, the husbands, the wives, the children.
You might not want to rely on people, but please do find them. That's what they're there for.
That is what they're there for. And I never once, regardless of whether I was speaking to her about you, me, us, whatever, I never once felt that I was asking too much of them, or that I was asking something that I shouldn't, or, it was a case of no question is stupid.
No.
If you've got a question that you do not know the answer to, ask away.
Yeah.
And it might be something simplistic. It might be something. And you know what? There was a few occasions where we did ask her something. She said, you know what? I'm going to need to look into that. And she would always come back to us.
Always.
Whether it be later that day, the following day, whatever, she'd ring us and go, I've looked into it. This is.
Well, I've asked the consultant, is what they said.
Yeah. And she was absolutely amazing. But
love you.
Yeah. getting that diagnosis, you know, that was the start of the journey, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And we had a lot.
I don't remember going into the consultant room. Do you?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think past that, there's not only I don't remember things because of chemo brain, but I don't remember things because obviously I block a lot of things out that I don't address. And I think this podcast as well is an opportunity for me to learn more about that time, because Joe knows things that I don't. And, you know, you often hear him go, no, 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 no. And then he'll correct me because I don't know what happened. You know, I know the key points, but there's reasons why I block it out. I think they're quite natural. So this podcast is helping us both really talk it through. It's kind of like a talking therapy for us, but you're our audience. But no, this is the main reason for it, isn't it? So, you know, I don't remember going to that consultant's office, and that was probably the most important thing, and knowing what's happening moving forward.
And yeah, I mean, I do remember a lot of that conversation, and you know, a lot of it in that first initial appointment, it was, you know, at the end of the day, these guys do the same. They know what works. They know how much information to give, and I do feel that she was able to go into it in a lot more detail than maybe she would someone else, because
we were clear-headed.
We were clear-headed, and you know, at the end of the day, you do not know how you're going to react in that situation, and it might be that, I mean, there was situations where information was given to us down the line that in that moment we weren't able to handle it. But there was also times where we were given information and we were like, right, yeah, cool. What do we do about it? You know, and until you're in that moment, I don't think you really know how you're going to react. And I think that's also, from their point of view, they have information to give you. But, you know, in that first initial appointment, it could just be a case of, this is what we're dealing with.
And this is what we're going to do.
And this is what we're going to do about it.
And that's all you need to know right now. Yeah. You don't need to know the ins and outs. I remember her now. I remember her saying it will be 6 months of chemotherapy. Yes. And, you know, she said that. And that's all we need to know right then. Yeah. We didn't need to know the type. She let us know how often it would be when she did the treatment plan. But we didn't know the type. We didn't know anything like that. We didn't need to know it later.
I think, though, because we were that clear-headed in that moment, I do, you know, she did go into a lot of that.
Yeah, she did.
And, you know, like I said, I think initially, here's what we're dealing with, here's how we're going to tackle it. Yeah. That is the key points in that first appointment. And you know what? They brought us out of that appointment, and our nurse specialist said to us, right, do you need some time in the room? Do you need this? What do you need from us? And we went, no.
We just want to go home.
So as scary as that appointment is.
Sorry, did we go home or did we go to some street help people? We told them. I can't remember what happened.
We actually went for lunch.
Of course we did.
We went to the harvester.
Yeah, we did. Just emotionally ate, basically.
We did. We went to the harvester.
Oh yeah, we did.
And yeah, so you
sorry, post-cancer lunch, like just as hilarious.
We had something to celebrate.
Did we? You did. I remember what?
Yeah. So that appointment is heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy, and it's okay if you forget some of it.
Yeah, it is okay.
It is okay.
It is okay. And you know, we had a plan, and we knew what the next steps were, and there is that next 4 weeks was very intense. There was a lot of things that happened.
Yeah.
And we are gonna wrap it up for today. Yeah. There is another thing we do want to run through, but as far as the story for today is concerned, that's where we're gonna wrap things up today. So
basically, next time we talk, it'll be about how of a stubborn bitch I am.
Yes, how much of a stubborn bitch you are. IVF. And the run up to our wedding.
So come back for that, because that's fun.
It's a fun story. But, you know, we just wanted to recap. You know, we've shared a lot of detail today. A lot of the symptoms and things like that have kind of come up in conversation. But we do just want to go over some of the symptoms with you guys, just to let you know what they are. And, you know, there were symptoms of Hodgkin's lymphoma that Shannon didn't have. You know, so there is multiple things. And
yeah, and there's even ones that I did have that I didn't know were symptoms.
Yeah. So skin, for one.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Anyway, so we'll go through it. Just go look at this because I don't want to miss anything. So this is what I was experiencing. I can't speak for anyone else and what they are experiencing. If you feel like you need to seek medical attention, please do. So I was experiencing, obviously, it was about the chest pain, because the lymph node site was in my chest. It was right here, and that's where I was having most of my chest pain. But like I said, we couldn't see or feel a physical lump until I'd lost that 4 stone, and it was literally protruding, wasn't it? So, you might not feel it, you might not see it, but it still could be there. Shortness of breath. Even though my lungs weren't affected, I was so short of breath, I could barely walk up the stairs without, honestly, passing out. And thinking about it now, I've had a flashback of walking up the stairs and getting to the top and almost collapsing, and you'd be like, you coming here to get me? Forget going out places and doing things. We were in wheelchairs. We went to concerts and festivals in wheelchairs when I was so poorly, but I refused to let it, and not, to not go and let it get to me. So again, stubborn bitch. Biggest one for me was a dry cough. For over 6 weeks, they say. I had one a little bit longer than that. And I worked in an environment when there was no windows and it was very close contact. So I thought I just had a bad chest. But, it would not go away. The antibiotics, I even had a steamer, that wouldn't go away, nothing. So if you've got a dry cough, keep an eye on that, record how long it's been. Obviously, we've spoken about being extremely fatigued and tired. I think you've got the gist of that, and on the level that I was at. Like we said, itchy skin. On that holiday, I remember my hands being so itchy, I scratched them red raw, they were bleeding.
We went to a pharmacy.
Oh my gosh, in England, we couldn't find anything that helped it stop itching. Like, we couldn't, and doctors were like, don't want to give you anything because, we don't know what it is. Honestly, that pharmacy...
They gave us a cream called halibut.
Like the fish.
Yeah, I like the fish. And it was all in Spanish, so...
Didn't know what it was.
God knows what it is.
But I said, yes, please, I bought 3.
Yeah, you bought 3, used them over, and then I think we bought about 7 or 8, which we bought back.
So you can't get them in the UK, so I had to import them. And I bought about a pack of 8, I think it was a bulk pack, and I was just like, you know what, this stuff is so good, I need it, because it stopped the itching. And basically what it was topical cream, which had that anti-itch inside of it. And honestly, I still have it now. And if I get anything that itches or any bug bites, we use it. So we were lucky enough to have that. But my hands were red raw. I remember sometimes you have to wrap my hands up in bandages and put tube over them or gloves on or something so I couldn't itch in the night. Because in the night, I'd be itching.
There was nights where you were in a mental institute. And
I had my hand in, yeah.
So you can claw people.
Yeah. That's how bad it got.
Literally bandaged.
But I just thought that I had a skin issue or I had something going on. No. Turns out it was a symptom. We've spoken about the night sweats. The weight loss. The weight loss happened very quickly and it was very drastic. I said 4 stone in under 2 months. Bought my wedding dress thinking, I'm a curvy girl. And then, getting married like a week later, I was skinny. But it was a corset fit, so it's all good. This is another one that I didn't think was anything to do with it. A couple of weeks before I met you, I had maybe drunkenly fallen, and I had a massive, huge cut on my knee. And day 1, it wasn't healing. It was getting infected, and I was like, I've kept it clean. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm first aid trained here. So I was keeping it clean. Everything would not heal. And that is a sign as well, not healing from infections or having infections or not healing, slow healing wounds as well. That thing took a couple of months to go, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Which obviously then is another sign that things could be a bit dodge. Excessive nosebleeds.
Oh God, we didn't talk about these.
Oh my gosh. I will not be posting anything, any pictures, because we will get banned. You will not believe the amount. I'll just be sat here and all of a sudden it will just come streaming out. I have to run to the bathroom and I'd let it just all come out in the sink, and the sink would be filling up, wouldn't it? This also wasn't something I discovered until after I'd been in touch with other people going through what I was going through. And they all experienced pain or increasing pain after drinking alcohol. And I remember we had like a few nights out, you know, we went to, like I said, these festivals. I was in a wheelchair. I will post some pictures soon, I'm sure. I have my wheelchair, my can in the air and all that. And we'd had a drink or two, and it just made my pain even worse. But I didn't make that link at all. But that is a link there for you. Also, mouth ulcers. Remember them bad boys? Another reason why I couldn't eat. They were huge, and that was in before chemo. Chemo can produce mouth ulcers, but pre-chemo, they were horrific. And again, it was Bonjela, it was a mouthwash, it was just trying to get something for some relief, because you couldn't even talk at this point, because it was all of you tiny. Makes people very grim. Fevers, you know, hot and cold. I had temperatures quite a lot, didn't I? And temperatures had dropped quite a lot as well, so it was up and down quite a lot when I wasn't feeling very well.
So you'd be dropping down at 35 and a half degrees.
Yeah.
And it's up to 40, 41.
We got to 42, I think, was my highest. But they say, I think, over 38 to call them. Again. And the last one that I do remember is joint pain. Now, if you remember what I was saying about when I first met Joe, I went to a rheumatologist, and one of the symptoms I was having was joint pain, which is why they thought it could be autoimmune. Turns out that could also be brought on by you know, cancer. But I'm not saying it is. You know, I still have joint pain now, and I always had since I was a kid. It's just made it worse for me. I do have the connective tissue disease, don't I? So all my connective tissue doesn't work. I'm very flexible. I'm very clumsy. I break things. I break ligaments like there's no tomorrow. But that's always been me. But during the run-up to being diagnosed, that just got worse. It was exasperated. It was honestly horrific.
Yeah.
But like we said, like you could have many different symptoms. So what I like to give awareness anywhere I go, whether that's a workplace, whether that's talking to somebody. Somebody tells me I've got a dry cough for a while, I'll ask them and I'll beg them to go and get it checked out.
We've actually had family and friends who have got...
Yeah, they have.
And they've literally said to us, you know, it's turned out to be nothing or whatever it may be, but they've said to us, we went and got X, Y, or Z checked because of what you went through.
Yeah.
And, you know, hearing that from someone that you care about as a friend, as a family member or a work colleague,
yeah,
you know, it makes you realize that, you know what, you've made a difference to someone's life, because, you know, do you know what, if that issue was something,
yeah,
and they catch it early, it can make all the difference as far as recovery is concerned. And
they think I had cancer. Was it November 22, and they found it in September 23. So
all the symptoms you were having prior to a meeting, and what prompted rheumatology, was they believed the beginning of the cancer. So they actually anticipate you had it for nearly a year before you died.
And like you just said, like if we can talk to family and friends and tell them to go get things checked, we can tell you that as well. And by reaching a wider audience, we're hoping to support more people, support awareness, and try and get that out there, that if you feel any of these symptoms at any of the same time, or even, you know, you can't quite pinpoint it, or you know something's not right, please push to be seen, push for that appointment. There's a 2-week program, 2-week path. If you think you've got cancer and you go and they do some tests and they think, oh, you've got a 2-week path, they have to put you on it for a test. Even if it comes out negative, you have to go on it. And that's when you get all your tests and your different biopsies and things. Please don't be scared of EBISs. That was just my experience. So just saying that out loud as well. But please, please, please seek medical advice if you have any symptoms, or if you know a loved one that's had a dry cough for a little while and you're kind of worried about them, they're a bit tired, you know. From what we've spoken about today, from my experience and from what we've been through, please, please, please push for that medical advice. And if you're knocked down and it's still happening, get back up and try again, because honestly, it's worth it. I can't say getting cancer is worth it, but you know what? I couldn't imagine what would happen if we hadn't got a diagnosis. I mean, just let it go on. What would happen is I wouldn't be here.
And the other thing is as well, is if you're not being listened to, there is escalation processes as far as doctors and hospitals are concerned. You've got PAL, which is the patient liaison service that you can speak to. Obviously, you've got concerns about, you know, your care or loved one's care. so there is avenues you can take. So, if you have concerns, get them checked, and
escalate it.
And if you're not listened to like we were, you escalate and you push hard, because, at the end of the day, we all deserve the same level of treatment.
Of course we do.
So get out, get checked.
And I'm not going to sit here and say, message us in our DMs, we can diagnose you, because we are not medical professionals. But, if you do have concerns about anything that you're going through and you want to run it by us or just talk to us about it, we can advise you how to push further in the NHS. I can't say it will work, but we will do our best to help you. Because that is our aim. As much as it is a talking therapy for us, it's a massive, massive awareness thing for everybody else.
So look, just want to say thanks to everyone who's still with us. Thanks for listening. Hope you've found today insightful.
Yeah.
And like Sharon's just said, if you've got any questions or if you want to share your story or ask us about anything, just drop us a message. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this to spread awareness and to get people talking about these sort of issues that people are scared of.
People are scared of the word cancer, and we want to get rid of that taboo. We need to talk about it more.
Yeah. So drop us a message, drop us a comment. While you're there, please hit that like, please hit the subscribe, the follow button, and guys, we'll see you in the next one.